keep getting up here and saying it has been quite a week, because it keeps being quite a week. Friends, how long has October been? Yeah, too long. This week, as so many things happened, as I reflected on the state of our world, on voter disenfranchisement and purging of the voter rolls in Georgia, on the attempted legislation of trans people out of existence, on violence, on the killing of journalists in the name of the government of Saudi Arabia, which our government said, oh yeah, that's fine, about. I came in here, I work in the office on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I came in here and I came to this piano, and I haven't played piano in forever, and I was never great at chord progressions nor accompanying myself. But I've been sitting there and I've been singing to myself the version of the 23rd Psalm that is in our hymnal. The Lord is my shepherd, I have all I need. She makes me lie down in green meadows beside still waters, she will lead. This morning I wanted to share that feeling I have while I'm sitting there by myself in the dark with some light coming through this glass. And I was looking for words that would encapsulate how I felt without maybe all of the baggage of the God language of the actual 23rd Psalm. And I found this. Psalm 23 for this moment, written by Kevin Tarsa to celebrate the memory of Jim Key, former moderator of the Unitarian Universalist Association, who passed of cancer last year. May I remember in this tender moment that love is my guide always, shepherding me towards ways of openness and compassion. I have what I need, really. Love at my side, above me, below me, in front of me, behind me, inside every cell of me. Love infused everywhere. Just when the weight of the world I inhabit threatens to drop me in place and press my hope down into the ground beneath me, love invites me to rest for a gentle while and leads the center of my soul to the quiet, still, restoring waters nearby that somehow I had not noticed. And so love quietly seats me once again on its tender and demanding path. Even when the walls close around me and the cries of death echo through untold corners, gripping my heart with fear and sadness, I know that all will be well, that I will be well, when love whispers near to me, glints at the corner of my eye, rests with gentle and persistent invitation upon my shoulders. Yes, love blesses me, even as the sources and symbols of my pain look on. Love blesses me from its infinite well, and I turn and I notice that goodness and kindness and grace follow me everywhere I go. I live in a house of love, love that will not let me go. I live in a house of love, and I always will. Amen. So, this service was different when I was first working on it. Turns out the reality of the world is that if tragedy happens on Saturday, you rewrite the sermon. Lucky for me, I write them on Saturday anyway. One of the changes this week is this focusing hymn. I'd like to change to the meditation on breathing, also found in the Teal hymnal. Could you? 1009 instead of 1057. I'm just going to introduce the different parts. I said we were doing experiments in music this week. This is one of them. So this song has 3 parts. Pick whichever one is most comfortable for you to sing. We start with a drum. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. I breathe in peace when I breathe out. I breathe out love when I breathe in. I breathe in peace when I breathe out. I breathe out love when I breathe. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. What to say of monsters in a week such as this? One might speak of the neologism, stochastic terrorism, which has been defined as the use of language to incite random actors to carry out violent or terrorist acts that are statistically predictable but individually unpredictable. In doing so, one could discuss how people who commit acts of violence, like those seen in attempted bombings and successful shootings around our country this week, are in fact not lone wolves, are not unique monsters who came to violent conclusions due only to some self-created distortion in their souls, but are instead, at least in part, the products of an ever more violent cultural and rhetorical turn in concert with easy access to weapons. We could discuss how making such violent actors into monsters lets the masses, many of whom passively benefit from hierarchical violence, ignore their, and yes, our, responsibility for these actions. Discussion could be had about the Black woman, Rochelle Ritchie, who works as a Fox News political analyst, who reported the pipe bomber to Twitter for violent threats and was ignored. We could talk about the pattern of intimate violence among men who commit acts of mass violence. Each of these men has a domestic violence charge in their past. They hurt the vulnerable people at home before they go to hurt the vulnerable people in public. We could talk about all of the canaries in this coal mine: women, LGBTI folks, people of color, people with disabilities, and religious minorities who have been falling over for years. We could talk about rhetoric. We could talk about how rhetoric about globalists is thinly veiled anti-Semitism, and how the far right's repeated references to George Soros are the same. We could think about how years and years of being called Tiller the baby killer by Rush Limbaugh and other right-wing pundits led to abortion provider George Tiller's murder inside his church in 2009. We can consider what being repeatedly named by the President of the United States as an enemy of the people might cause some people to think it is okay to do to you. We could talk about what it means to have a president who says that we need nationalism, who thinks that a synagogue full of people celebrating the dedication of a baby to their faith should simply have had more guns to avoid such a bad outcome. A man who, in the wake of Nazis marching in Charlottesville and killing Heather Heyer, said that there were good people on both sides. We might even ask questions about what it means that the liberal impulse to hear both sides often ends in equating the opinions of people who would like to be alive with people who would like them dead. If we were feeling brave, we might even talk about how darlings of the liberal media and several of our favorite second-wave feminists have built and exported the very rhetoric now being used in attempts to legislate trans people out of existence. Perhaps we would talk about how our culture makes literal monsters out of our fears. How we get zombies from our fears of the masses and vampires from our fear of the elite. How so many horror stories are about pubescent children, particularly pubescent assigned female at birth children, and about how our horror over change and the passage of time becomes the very monsters we like to scare ourselves with at this time of year. We might talk about how all cultures seem to do this sort of thing, working out our fears in imagined monsters and collective paranoia. We might consider, as I am often wont to do, the power in being someone constructed as a monster. We could discuss what is valuable about being the type of person who is frightening to a power structure with such distorted values. But I don't think we need to focus on any of that today. Today, I think we need to mourn, lament, feel the pain of the moment together, and remember who we are. There is a passage from Jeremiah that I think of often in times like these. Rachel is weeping, and she will not be consoled, for her children are dead. I think we need to weep with Rachel, for her children, for our family. I believe in ritual, and here at the end of October, I, as a pagan, particularly believe in rituals of mourning. Grief is a tricky thing. Like a rock thrown in our bag when we do not expect it, it is heavy and disorienting when it shows up. Unlike a rock in a bag, though, grief cannot simply be plucked out. We like to behave this way. And in a world so filled with tragedy, it is hard not to make moves to distance yourself from fully feeling the impact of tragedy after tragedy. But while we can push grief and mourning aside to get through a day, a week, a month, it will make itself known eventually. Roughly 2 years ago, during my clinical pastoral education residency, my heart was breaking all the time. I sat down at my computer and I wrote. You get a big heart by breaking it open over and over again, performing kintsugi every time. This is what I've learned. This is what I know. My heart has broken a lot. I poured gold in the cracks. It gets bigger every time. Kintsugi is a Japanese art of ceramic pottery repair. It is an action, piecing bowls and vases back together by fusing them with a mixture of lacquer and gold, silver, or platinum. And it is an aesthetic philosophy in which evidence of the history of an item, the times it has broken, the times it has chipped, are considered to be part of its beauty. I think we're like that too. There is this desire that we have because of the aesthetic sensibilities of our world to hide the places where we have broken, to pretend like that never happened, to buy a new bowl when we break one. But what is beautiful in each of us is the places where we have come open and reconstructed with more beauty. Like I said, I believe in ritual. And in times like this, when my heart breaks over and over, this is the ritual I perform. I let my heart break, and then I piece it back together, bigger and more beautiful than before. Dear ones, let us mourn. I'd like to invite you to take a moment in silence, a moment to consider your heartbreaks, big and small. Breathe slowly and consider the beloved dead. Consider those who are your people by blood, by choice, by community, who exist now in stories and ephemera, on the other side of a veil that many traditions consider to be considerably thinner at this time of year. Breathe. Remember. As you feel moved, please speak into this silence the names of your beloved dead. May your loved ones live on in you. May you live into existence a reflection of the best things given to you by those before you. May you take the lessons of their lives, their triumphs and their failures, and work to create yet better worlds. May their lives be a blessing. In this time of pain, as many of us witness, whether for the first time or for the 1,000th time, that this country is not all we were taught to believe it was. Let us be reflective. These pains, this unveiling of the gross sexism, transphobia, anti-Semitism, and other violent prejudices are enraging, are gutting. And they are information that tells us where the roots of our problem lie. I invite you to take a few more deep breaths in silence. And if you feel so moved, speak into this space a social pain which is particularly on your heart this morning. Anti-Semitism.
Homophobia.
Lack of compassion. Arachophobia. Hatred. Self-righteousness.
Paranoid fear.
We seek comfort together and in the universe in frightening times. In this time when we see beyond the mask of our country, the mask of our society, and find that unlike the masks worn for trick-or-treat, this mask covered the true horror. In this time of unveiling, may the bridges we burn light the way. May we seek the roots of our cultural dis-ease and heal. Finally, I invite you to sit silently in reflection on those 11 dead at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, many of whom I came to know this morning were themselves old enough to have lived through World War II. Remember them, though you may not know their names. Remember them and all those before them who have died in acts of racist, white supremacist, hateful violence committed in houses of worship in recent years. 26 people killed at First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs, Texas. 6 people killed at the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec City, Canada. 9 people killed at the Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina. 3 people killed at the Overland Park Jewish Community Center. 6 people killed at the Sikh Temple of Wisconsin in Oak Creek. 2 people killed at the Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church in Knoxville, Tennessee. In the tradition of those most recently lost to this senseless and indeed terroristic violence, I offer this translation of the Mourner's Kaddish as offered by the Reformed tradition. Exalted and hallowed be God's great name in the world which God created according to plan. May God's majesty be revealed in the days of our lifetime and the life of all of Israel. Speedily, imminently, to which we say, Amen. Blessed be God's great name to all eternity. Blessed, praised, honored, exalted, extolled, glorified, adored, and lauded be the name of the Holy Blessed One, beyond all earthly words and songs of blessing, praise, and comfort, to which we say, Amen. May there be abundant peace from heaven and life for us all, Israel, to which we say, Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to Israel, to which we say, Amen. Yesterday afternoon, my partner Melly, a Greek Jew who is the descendant of Holocaust survivors, wrote of their own process to understand the events of the day, and indeed of these recent years. They wrote, I was reminded earlier today by Rabbi Emily Cohen that in Vayera, where Lot bargains with God about Sodom and Gomorrah, his home. Vayera is the current Torah passage. You may or may not be familiar. In the liturgical traditions, Judaism and more traditional Christianity, they go through their holy book over a course of years. And so you get a portion. So the Torah portion right now talks about Lot bargaining with God about Sodom and Gomorrah, which is his home. Melly writes, are there 50 good people? Would you save it for 50 good people? How about 45? Lot bargains all the way down to 10. If there are any good people here, please save the city. This is my community. Yes, I know, it is full of evil people. It is flawed, but I live here. And there's not. So Lot and his family leave, and God destroys the cities, leaving Lot with nothing. His wife looks back for one last memory of home and is obliterated for it. I've had conversations with a number of friends recently about escape plans, Melly continues, about where we will go if we can, about where we can go and might to escape the acceleratingly fascist United States for the less fascist elsewhere. I regret my choice to say, but have not yet changed it. Am I making the right choice? Is it a choice to stay and fight, or a choice to put on blinders and slowly die? Is it a choice to confront bigots, or a choice to slowly give in, a choice through inaction? But my resources are here. My loved ones are here. The Torah portion also includes the binding of Isaac. Abraham takes his beloved son to be sacrificed as he believes God wishes, even as Isaac asks, "Where is the sheep for the offering? Father, you have shown me the knife and the wood." They continue up the mountain. Am I allowing America to bind me, restrict my movements, and hide myself in preparation for a sacrifice? There will be no godly intervention this time. There will not be a hidden sheep opening the way and allowing us to be free. We must not be passive. Leave or stay, we must take action. I do what I need in order to stay alive, and I speak out against fascism. And I support others doing what they can. We are here. We are many. There are more of us than there are of them. There are more than 10, more even than 50 righteous people living in the evil and pushing back against it, if we remember to push together. There is no shame in leaving to preserve your life. But no matter where you are, we must work together against fascism and racism, transphobia and anti-Semitism, and all other bigotries. God calls me to write and to organize and to help and to heal, and I reply like Abraham, Hineni, I am here. This is Melly's tradition. This is the way of their lineage back in time, people who reflect on these stories to know what they do in response to the world as it happens. This is a tradition that my beloved shares with those beloved dead in Pittsburgh and with millions of persecuted people across history. It is a tradition that my friends often jokingly refer to as having only one holiday. They tried to kill us. We're still here. Let's eat. Dear ones, we too have a tradition. We too may hear a call. Among us, in fact, we have many traditions, sometimes all banging against one another inside one human. But this is not what I mean. We Unitarian Universalists have a tradition that speaks to who we are and what we do in moments like these. I wear a symbol of it around my neck every day, and we light one as we begin our service each Sunday morning. Let me tell you a pair of stories. Waitstill Sharp was a Unitarian minister. He was, as many of our ministers have been, wealthy, white, and well-educated. He, his wife Martha, and their 2 small children lived in Wellesley, Massachusetts, where he served as the minister of the local Unitarian church, when, in 1939, they were approached by Reverend Everett Baker, then vice president of the American Unitarian Association. A new initiative, which would eventually be named the Unitarian Service Committee and would go on to be our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, was being formed to help endangered refugees, especially Eastern European Jews and Unitarians. Please remember, we have been around for pretty much the whole of the history of Christianity. These were our people too, our heretics too. They were seeking to find ways to help these vulnerable refugees leave the region. As the story has been told to me, Waitstill was the 17th minister that the Unitarian Service Committee approached. He had 2 small children, both under age 10. And Waitstill and Martha, they were asked to go, and they left their small children at home, and in 1939 went to Czechoslovakia, where they began the project of helping people escape. When it became too dangerous to stay in Czechoslovakia, they moved to southern France, where the Unitarian Service Committee and the World YMCA worked together to help these endangered refugees and Czech servicemen escape from Vichy France. Elsewhere in the nascent Unitarian Service Committee, an Austrian refugee named Hans Deutsch set out to design a logo that would serve both to legitimize the organization and be a symbol of hope and assistance for people in trouble. Deutsch took his inspiration from the chalices of oil burned on ancient Greek and Roman altars, as well as the traditions of flames and vessels throughout religious history, and arrived at the very first version of what we now know as the flaming chalice, symbol of our faith. Christian minister and peace activist William Sloane Coffin is quoted as having said, "It is not the preacher's job to tell you what to do, but only to remind you of who you are." And friends, this is who you are. This is who we are. We are people who meet the challenges of the world, who face the terror of our world with compassion and creativity. We are people who show up. We are people who do what we can from where we are. We are people who seek to realize a meaningful kingdom of heaven here on earth, whether or not we believe there is any after. We are imperfect, we are struggling, but when we are honest with each other, when we are honest with each other and dedicated to our values, to love, to justice, to the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we are able to be a comforting light in the hardest of times. It does not need to be your work to enter into the belly of the beast, as it were. But our faith calls us to action and to deeper community. Our faith calls us to knowing the value of open hearts and the strength of working together in our differences rather than despite or against them. In 2008, our congregation in Knoxville, Tennessee, the Tennessee Valley Unitarian Universalist Church, was attacked during the performance of a play by a man who stated his motivations as hatred of Democrats, liberals, Black folks, and homosexuals, who he believed were ruining the country and all of its institutions. 2 people were killed and 7 more were injured. A week later, the UUA took out a full-page ad in the New York Times. It read simply, "Our doors and our hearts will stay open." Love harder, dear ones. Keep your hearts open. Pour gold into the cracks and work to become something yet more beautiful. Find in yourself deeper compassion. Resist self-centered, narcissistic hatred with a love that is new and bright and creative and big. I don't mean be nice. And I really don't mean never inconvenience the people who put our family in danger. I mean act like you love marginalized people. I mean, reach out and support folks who are hurting and in danger. Love harder, dear ones. Attend to the margins. Work and love even yet harder the more you stand to benefit even passively from this violence. Love. Love like if Jews and black folks and trans folks were your family. Because we are. Love marginalized people like if each of us was an embodiment of all that is holy. Because we are. Love people who are hurt, in pain, or in danger, like if you were the embodiment of the divine. Because you are. Amen. Ashe, blessed be. Please rise as you are willing and able for our closing hymn, number 1057, Go Lift It Up. Please join in the chalice extinguishing words as found in your order of service. Although we extinguish this flame, we close, beloved family, with these words from Deuteronomy. It is written in the Torah, I call heaven and earth to witness today that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Choose life so that you and your descendants may live. Go in peace.